Okay, in the last video we talked about collecting messages, and then it seems to have gone back to installing Graylog. There's a couple good things to read from here, but then I'll move through pretty quickly because we essentially have already covered that. Modern server architectures and configurations are managed in many different ways. Some people still put new software somewhere in the OPT, which I learned stands for optional, or at least according to this Stack Exchange post. In the old days, OPT was used by Unix vendors like AT&T, Sun, and DEC to hold option packages. And this person gives, I think, a nice, more modern approach to this folder. It's optional add-on software packages, so not different than the historical approach up there. But I'm thinking more about anything that isn't part of the base system, like it says right there, versus any packages that you might have paid extra money for. So even though people still put new software in that OPT folder manually for each server, while others have already jumped on the configuration management train and fully automated reproducible setups. Where was that paragraph going? I guess the point is you can install in many different ways. And so then they reiterate that right here. They talk about virtual machine appliances again. Look at previous videos for me to flesh that out. But at this point it looks like this chapter is explaining the many ways to install Graylog and will aim to help you choose the one that fits your needs. In terms of system requirements, a modern Linux distribution is the first requirement. Then you'll need Elasticsearch 5 or 6, MongoDB, and Oracle Java. They'll give some cautionary warnings about older versions of Graylog. And they're saying that Graylog 3x does not include compatibility with Java 11, and we welcome people that test this, and I wonder if this is still current. It's for me right now, it's November 29th, 2020. So let's do a speed run through each of these installation methods. Maybe try to find a way to take notes on each. Okay, so to do a speed run through this, pre-considerations, please run this appliance always in a separated network that is isolated from the internet. You can go here to download the image, which I need to do. If you're unsure of what the latest version number is, take a look at the release page. Why would they keep these two things separate? And how are you confused about which version is the most recent, right? That would be this. Here's the release page. I can read release notes. That's actually interesting. Not much to talk about here, I guess. They've added Slack notification and script notification plugin for the enterprise-only version. Elastic 7 is supported, and dark mode is supported. Change logs. So I wonder if this is where we'd find whether or not Java 11 has been embraced or not. But I'm getting down a rabbit hole I don't want to go. Alright, so their example, it looks like they're using VirtualBox, which is good. That's what I would use. So it looks like the typical... Oh, it's not. So you go to File and Import Appliance. I could show you what that looks like. So File, Import Appliance, right? And then I have to choose it after downloading it. Okay, so I actually started the download. They say here, make sure you have enough RAM and CPUs on your local machine. You can lower the resources the virtual machine will get assigned, but we recommend not to lower it. Okay, so just go with the default values, they say. If this picture is accurate, we need 2 cores and 4,000 megabytes of RAM. Alright, so next you can start the VM and you should see login shell like this when the boot is completed. If you don't have a working DHCP server, you'll get an error message. In this case, you have to log in and edit configuration files under the etc netplan path in order to set up a fixed IP address, then create the file, all of this, and reboot. So they're saying just create a empty file? Well, logging in, you can log into the shell of the operating system of the appliance with the user ubuntu and the password ubuntu. Oh, okay. I'm forgetting to take notes here. The web interface is reachable on port 80 at the IP address of your virtual machine. The login prompt of the shell is showing you this IP address too. So the screenshot is above. Okay, so they created this where it looks like really difficult for you to mess it up. For configuration, check that documentation. I do remember reading this. It said something about if you're using an appliance, don't do X, Y, and Z. So that's definitely something to remember. Here's VMware ESXi stuff. But since I don't use VMware, I'm going to skip it. I'm using the latest version here, but if there's a newer version and I want to try it out, I guess I can follow this update guide. Okay, so that's the appliance. Okay, so there wasn't much for me to read up here, but once I got down to the update to latest version, I think this is something good to take notes of. And remember, we're at the point where we're only talking about the OS install, not this appliance stuff. And I've already messed up because I have a CentOS box. So I don't think I'll be using apt-get. I need yum. There we go. And they say here it's like a fresh install, actually. Apparently running clean all is required because yum might use a stale cache and thus might be unable to find the latest version of the graylog-server package. If you have plugins or the enterprise plugins installed, you need to update them together with a graylog-server package, and the following command will do that for you. Alright, that's rough, and I might need to change it in their GitHub. But in order to get that entire line, I had to zoom out quite a bit. And for the manual repository installation, they don't recommend this. Sort of interesting to look at, though, I guess. One time I really messed up this line with a typo. But that's it for OS installations in general. Now they're just going to have separate pages for Ubuntu. And going over the prerequisites, you need to get MongoDB on there, Elasticsearch on there. Here's some configuration stuff for that. Yep, definitely not something we need to read here. Ooh, if you're using security enhanced Linux, though, here's some extra steps to take. They're going to assume you have the policy core utils Python installed. Then say you need to take care of the following settings. This will allow the web server to access the network. If the policy above does not comply with your security policy, you can also allow access to each port individually. And that's with the semanage command. If you run a single server environment with Nginx or Apache proxy, enabling the Graylog REST API is enough. All other rules are only required in a multi-node setup. Having SE Linux disabled during installation and enabling it later requires you to manually check the policies for MongoDB, Elasticsearch, and Graylog. Depending on your actual setup and configuration, you might need to add more rules to get to a running setup. And here's all the links you can go to learn. Now we're on SLES installation, which is good because I've never heard of this. Well, it's SUSE or SUSE, I've heard people call it Linux. So here's the infamous YAST reference. Pseudo Zipper is the process, but as you see, the process is very similar. Well, there's the use of T. I have to use that in Vim sometimes. But yeah, everything else looks pretty similar to what we've already seen. The DevOps movement turbocharged market adoption of the newest generation of configuration management and orchestration tools like these. Graylog offers special scripts for all three of them. And I don't know, I'm just curious, so I'm going to click each of them. So this one is for chef. Sometimes dark mode messes with stuff. The terms here make me laugh though. Cookbook, kitchen setup, run list, and you have your recipe for Java and so on. You can click Java's cookbook readme right here. But well, this walks you step by step through the process. That's nice. Here's for Puppet. Not gonna read any of this. Just wanna get eyes on the stuff. I don't know which one is better. I'm thinking I like Ansible right here more though, just because it's a Red Hat thing. And it's the smallest of them all. Until you click the readme, I guess. Yeah, I do like Ansible the most. So, okay, with that said, there's a Docker page under this installation section. Here are the Docker images. Quick start, if you want to check out Graylog on your local desktop without any further customization, you can run the following 3 commands to create the necessary environment. Docker run Mongo, then Elastic with these details added, and then Docker run Graylog. All configuration examples are created to run on the local computer. Should those be used on external servers, adjust graylog HTTP external URI and add that and that according to the server.conf documentation. And now they're going to talk about how to get log data, which for the point of this video, to go over the many different installation paths one can take, I'm going to skip. There's a volume mounted plugin section. Instead of building a new Docker image, you can also add additional plugins by mounting them directly and individually into the plugin folder of the original Docker image. This way you don't have to create a new Docker image every time you want to add a new plugin or remove an old one. So that's key right there, that plugin folder. Now the Docker compose file has to reference that Docker image. You can add as many of these links as you wish in your Docker compose YAML file. Simply restart the container and Docker will recreate the Graylog container with the new volumes included. Here's the Kubernetes automatic master selection section. Running Graylog in Kubernetes opens a challenge to set the isMasterTrue setting only for one node in the cluster. The problem can be solved by calculating the name of the pod if Graylog is running in a stateful set with the following environmental variable. Wow, so challenge is right. So there's my note on that. For a stateful set, the name of the first pod in a cluster always ends with 0. See the documentation about stateful set. The master selection mechanism in docker entry point.sh file does the following. So examine if Graylog is running inside Kubernetes, verify that the pod name ends in 0, and set isMasterTrue for this container. Okay, so this is not difficult at all. We're close to the end. Nomad automatic master selection. I'm gonna skip this part. The last thing they say on this page is you should test beta versions unless you are an experienced Graylog user. But you can run pre-releases, that is alpha, beta, or release candidate of whatever number, using Docker. Those numbers are tagged in the Graylog Docker image. I'm definitely not going to read the manual setup page. However, on this upgrade page, I think this thing about Elasticsearch is particularly important. When upgrading from 2 to 5, make sure to read the upgrade manual. Graylog 2.5 is the first version that supports Elasticsearch 6. When upgrading from Elasticsearch 5 to 6, make sure to read the upgrade provided by Elastic. The Graylog Elasticsearch configuration documentation contains information about compatible versions. After the upgrade, you must rotate the indices once manually. So maybe reading this will be saved for another time, because now I think all this is going to do is go over each individual version of upgrading Graylog. So we're on 2.2. Yeah, as you can see here, there's another upgrading Elasticsearch section, but it looks like the same stuff. Okay, so that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll drill down more into configuring Graylog.